Secretary of State has signalled a major U-turn in Washington's policy on Syria, which has long been a bone of contention between America and Russia.
I think the status and the longer term status of President Assad will be decided by the Syrian people.
Rex Tillerson's statement didn't get a response from his Turkish counterpart in Ankara. However, this new stance set out by Washington could become a stumbling block in relations between the United States and Turkey, as Ankara has never expressed sympathy for the Syrian president. The comments were made during the US Secretary of State's first official visit to Turkey. Our Middle East correspondent, Paula Sleer, has more on that.
If you look at the photos and the statements coming out, of course on camera they're all smiles, they're shaking hands, but we need to ask, is it also shiny behind the closed doors? Now, as you know, relations between Turkey and the United States have been quite strained for some time already. The talks between the Turkish President Erdogan and the US Secretary of State Tillerson reportedly lasted for some 2 hours. And among the topics discussed were two that are damaging the relations between the two countries the most: the US support for Kurdish fighters in Syria, as well as the United States being unwilling to extradite the cleric Fethullah Gulen, who is blamed by Ankara for trying to organize the coup last year.
You see what's happening in Syria. What business do the U.S. soldiers dressed up with the so-called patches of a terrorist organization have there?
Turkey's been a strong ally for decades.
We believe Turkey is a genuine partner in destroying ISIL.
We remain in close contact with our Turkish allies.
Oh, America, I told you many times, you are either with us or all of these terrorist organizations. You don't have a good grasp of them, and that is why the region has turned into a sea of blood.
Friend and a NATO ally.
Even the best of friends aren't going to agree on everything.
Now, there were strained relations again today as Turkey once again raised one of these sticky issues in bilateral relations, that of the American backing of Syrian Kurds. The Turkish foreign minister has said that the continued support by Washington for the Kurdish YPG group affects the relationship between the two countries, as well as affecting the Turkish people's view of the United States as a Turkish ally. But despite this, there hasn't been any kind of coherent response from the United States or from the U.S. State Secretary to this point, despite the fact that he was asked to comment on it directly multiple times.
I think the exchange of views was very helpful to both of us today, and we will continue to work together on the way forward.
How do you convince the Turkish government that partnering with Kurdish YPG rebels is essential in defeating ISIS?
We're exploring a number of options and alternatives, and we had a good discussion around those, and there's additional, I think, consideration on both sides yet to come.
Do you believe that you have overcome your differences over this issue?
What we discussed today were options that are available to us. They are difficult options. Let me be very frank. These are not easy decisions. They're difficult choices that have to be made.
The tensions between Turkey and the United States sometimes become a base for even a third rift, which is Turkey's skepticism over NATO. NATO members, for their side, are also not happy. You have, for example, Germany that is searching for alternatives to the Turkish base that it currently uses for its anti-Islamic State operations and fighting.
Okay, live insight now from former Turkish ambassador to the United States, Faruk Loghoglu. Ambassador, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us on RT. Rex Tillerson's meetings seemed to run smoothly, smiles, friendly handshakes, but the US does still support the Kurds in Syria, people Turkey considers terrorists. Won't that throw a spanner in relations?
Well, this is one of the major sticking points in Turkish-American relations, inherited from the days of the Obama administration. And Secretary Tillerson's visit, which is the first visit by a Trump cabinet member, I think didn't make much progress on that score. You just reported the statements made by Secretary Tillerson. Turkey is very adamantly insistent on the fact that PYD, YPG are mere extensions of the terrorist organization PKK. and that any operation, including the one against Raqqa, should be done without the participation of YPG, PYD. But that's not the American point of view, so this problem is going to be a source of concern for both sides in the days to come. It's an important issue.
And what about movement in any way? Because at that joint news conference with the Turkish Foreign Minister, Tillerson noted a few times there are still complicated issues yet to be discussed. How prepared is Turkey to pull back on any stance, even in just a small way?
Look, I think the only major convergence during Tillerson's visit to Turkey was the reiteration of the two sides in their mutual commitment and determination to cooperate and to keep fighting ISIL, the Islamic State. So that is the point of convergence. In terms of whether Turkey could change or moderate its position vis-à-vis YPG, I think it is unlikely in the near future. Much depends on how much role Turkey is given in the future of Syria, and particularly in what happens in the effort to retake Raqqa from ISIL.
What about the enemy that everybody's up against, that ISIL? A lot's been said about both countries' commitment to fighting those terrorists. How can cooperation be achieved when there's still palpable friction between the US and Turkey?
Now, look, I think we have to remember another important fact, and that is that both US and Turkey are members of the international coalition against ISIL. And I think both sides have been doing whatever they can to defeat ISIL. I think there is no divergence on that point. And there are, of course, other parties, including Russia, in the fight against ISIL. So everybody has to do its part in defeating ISIL.
OK, we have to leave it there, but for now, Ambassador...
Turkish...
Please, go on.
The Turkish-Russian difference... the Turkish-American differences on bilateral matters should not affect their contribution to the fight against ISIL in both Syria and Iraq.
So one would hope not. For now, thank you very much. Ambassador Logolu, former Turkish ambassador to the United States.